Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in. You are listening to another episode of the Alchemy Annex. Today is episode number 2, and we're talking about the dark arts. Do want to thank all of you for joining us today here on Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, Facebook Live, or wherever. If you would like to give us a call to speak with us directly here on the show, just give us a call. We're never paying attention to those other chat outlets. That telephone number is going to be area code 319-527-6071. We'll be here for about the next hour or so as we finish up this podcast here, and we would love to get in touch with you. So, Beretta, I do have you on the line. We were just chatting for a moment before the show started. And quick piece of advice. What is it that, since we're going to be off for a while, we're on a new schedule, we won't be back with you guys until next Thursday, the 13th. So, Beretta, what is it that we need to know for the next 8-day period? What's helpful for us to know for that?
Okay. Well, okay, so I'm not sure what it pertains to, but I'm getting the fact that it's going to feel like something is beginning to run. And when I say something, it could be anywhere from groups of people to watercolor paint on a chalkboard. I don't know. It's just like I'm getting varied glimpses of what it means when they say things are going to, people are going to run, things are going to run, it's beginning to run. So I don't feel like it actually pertains 100% to people, but I feel like that's not run from. No. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of, what are you running from? You're not running from. I think it's you're running to. People are running to, or they're running for a cause or justification. God, I hope it's not rioting. So there's going to be a lot going on, but not everybody will join. Some will watch, some will be a participant, and some are going to be victims to whatever's going on. So it doesn't sound like it's 100% yay, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't feel like it's something that we've got to worry about.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. That's always a good thing when it doesn't concern us. So, sounds like that. I mean, if you paid attention to the news headlines, I said a couple of weeks ago that there was going to be a lot of fires in the news media, that was a major theme. And then not only did we have lots of fires, this was also around the time when lots of people just mysteriously vanished and went missing and disappeared. And some people died, like that one actor guy that they found his remains recently. But then, other people are just dropping off the face of the planet. And so, to be clear, what's really interesting about that is we don't really have like a traditional formula per se for like kidnapping or to mysteriously go away. Like we know what that, we like a connection that suddenly breaks off. We know what that is. Like that can be defined. We have a formula for that. But when it comes to like the really weird, like freaky Bermuda Triangle kind of stuff, the things that you normally see on TV, we don't have a traditional formula for that. So if you use the language of astrology and how that works, the best thing that we could do to get to that would be to transition into the beyond. And if you add the node to that, to Uranus Neptune, then you end up with death, which is one of the formulas that we use for that. But just the base planets Uranus, Neptune, which deal a lot with future and future technologies and things like that, this is something that I would tend to think is going to be associated with people just getting up and going away and dropping off of the face of the planet. We don't, without a trace, we don't know what happened to them. Very similar to transition into the beyond. So I think that, in that type of scenario of, hey, Ernesto, what formula do we look at for kidnapping or that kind of thing? I would say start there first and then see where you get from there. I mean, there's a number of ways that you could go about it, but Beretta, I don't know about you and what you're getting on your end as far as receiving messages or information is considered, but at least on my end, to vanish without a trace and to die are kind of the same thing in a lot of ways.
Well, and it wouldn't have anything to do with disappearance or just things disappearing. I would feel like, definitely a lot of metaphysical things are going on. And more than one, to be precise. But, before we take something as the new norm, we have to see it over and over and over. So one incident doesn't do anything, to identify what isn't right. But the feeling of the running I get, it would definitely be a common theme that whatever a group of people are running for, it's a common theme. So even though it may be in different places, it's the same common theme all over. It's interesting.
And you mentioned running away. I think this is a great segue into our conversation for today about the dark arts. So remember, everybody, that the dark arts is not just about, like black magic and all of the really evil, terrible things that we associate with those words. It's also more about the opposite end of, the same side of the coin, which is healing, which also deals with boundaries and self care. So these are really huge pillars within the dark arts that not a lot of us really take the time to think about, but there's a lot of terrific wisdom and information that's there alone. And also it extends to other things, like things that are really attractive, like I want to go and buy this product that I don't buy anymore because it looks good to me. It sounds good to me right now and I haven't thought about it for a while. It's really alluring in my mind, but is that really the just distraction that I need? So there's that type of thing too. Now, the first one that I always refer to is shadow people. Shadow people is really interesting because this can manifest in any number of ways. These are like catfishers or scammers on the internet. We experience them quite commonly. That they know, it's really kind of creepy how they always know all the right things to say to play to your heartstrings. And if that's to get you to open your wallet or to donate your time or to do whatever the heck it is that's being wanted at that moment, these shadow people, how the heck do they know this? Like some scammer that's sitting in, I don't know, a coffee shop in Nigeria. How do they know the right things to say that's going to animate me and hype me up in that way? Well, that's very simply because shadow people are often a reflection of the things that we don't like about ourselves, about our shadow self. And also there's another there are subsets of shadow people. So there's like the scammer that we talk to on the other side of the internet who's cowered behind a screen someplace just like what I am right here, right now. There is the other type of shadow person, and this is the type of person that I have what I refer to as a sex magic relationship. There's not really a whole lot of camaraderie, fellowship, friendship, even love to an extent. None of that's really going on. It's just kind of like compulsive. Like, I'm going to use your body to get off because it feels good, but I don't need to get to know you at the same time. And please do not glamorize or romanticize this in any way. Like, we're talking about, fatal attraction kind of stuff. People who are remarkably average and not special. And these are the types of people who get involved in these sex magic relationships, usually because there's just not anything else better to do and it's an activity. But it forms a type of shadow person to where, like, who is this other person that I'm spending all of my time with? Like, I may know how their body works and what they really enjoy in bed, but I don't know the first damn thing about them. Like, what's their last name? What's their favorite color? What's a show that we could enjoy together? Or what kind of takeout do we get? Those really big questions, they're really not big, but the really tiny questions that have to do with how we know other people, those shadow people just make it to where we can't know them. And I experience this on the business side with astrology too. Like, teach me everything there is to know about Uranian astrology. Show me the secrets of the universe and tell me how the work is done. Meanwhile, I'm not going to tell you my own personal birth data because that's too scary and I don't want to know. It's a different kind of shadow person that I deal with in my business all the time. And other astrologers may put up with it, but I don't. Like, I'm just of the belief, if you are unable to give me that information, then we're not really a good fit for each other, because the nature of Uranian astrology is using the matrix of your blueprint of your chart to live the best life that you know how with the gifts that you were given into this world and this life. And that's what I focus on. Like, I can show you all this other stuff, but if that is not the focus of how I know you, then something is terribly wrong, or I'm being compensated really well, because everything else that follows is a colossal waste of time. So this is another type of shadow person that we can also come into contact with. Not so often, but there are these people who are just kind of like, I'm not going to let on anything about who I am as a person. I'm just going to know you in this business sense, and that's just the way it is. And so for that reason, this other type of energy of these other people who want to call the shots and then not pay us accordingly for it. That's usually how that goes most of the time, by the way. Those types of relationships we have to learn to kick by the wayside, and these are hard things because it feels good that we have the attention, that somebody out there is actually willing to give us the energy that we need to either voice our opinion or whatever it may be. But when we're not getting that true satisfaction, it's just more of a reflection of the things that I don't like about myself. Like, why am I wasting my time with this person that I know isn't going to give me what I want? So that's when I just kind of put up the sharp boundaries and I say, nope, I'm not doing that. And it works pretty well for me. And a lot of people think that I'm difficult to work with for this reason. But it's just it's not that I'm difficult to work with. I'm straight up with you. I tell you, these are the terms and conditions of working with me. And if you don't like that, then we don't have to. But if you do, then this is how it's going to go down. This is only because my brain is weird and has all kinds of damage and issues that a lot of people don't understand. So it is just easier for everybody involved when I go about it in this fashion. So like I always say, first you get the bulldozer, and if that doesn't work, then we do the battering ram. And if that doesn't work, then we do the wrecking ball. And if that doesn't work, then we just flip a switch and go into dragon mode. We hope that dragon mode doesn't really happen too often because that's more of a thing of the past and my old narrative as a person. I'm realizing that there is a path, there is a pattern leading up to those behaviors, and I don't have to go through them when I feel like I'm crying black ink. So I become aware of my own darkness and my own shadow self, and I say, I'm not doing this with you. So therefore, I can put up sharp boundaries. Because remember that in order for there to be healing, there has to be pain. Because healing can't exist without pain. So if we take out pain, and we just then healing has nowhere to go. At the same time, we are wired to love. Fear is a learned emotion. Something that has happened to us in our lifetime made us afraid, made us go on the defensive, made us do whatever it is that makes us not love and feel warm and fuzzy in any given moment. That's how we're wired, but we learn different things. So the magic in all of this is being able to condition ourselves to say, this may have happened to me in my past, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm ready to move forward because I want better for myself. And this other thing that I'm doing, this isn't really getting me anywhere. So these are kind of like the major points about the dark arts. And then there are special types of relationships that we get involved with, such as the narcissist, which we are all familiar with, the chaos and turmoil that's associated with those very special types of relationships. This could be a parent, this could be a coworker, this could be a sibling or another family member. They can manifest in any number of ways. But these people, at a certain point you have to realize, are you a monster? Or are you the R word, which is very derogatory and terrible, which we're not supposed to say because it offends people, like the N word kind of. So it's just a different word. And then don't forget there's the F word, of course, for fraud. So that's always a really big one too.
Fraud, okay.
So Veretta, what is the function of these types of shadow people, and why they're consistently brought back to us all the time in different forms?
Okay. Well, so I have to also explain that my reference to shadow people is much more metaphysical, is much more paranormal than what you've described. You described that shadow people aspect at the physical level. I know that shadow aspect as that weight that puts itself on you at night when you sleep and you can't move, or you wake up in a paralysis type state, and you know there's somebody there. You feel there's somebody there, maybe hovering over you or pressing down on you. the shadow people are the ones that you see out of the corner in your eye when you look down there. There's nothing there, as a matter of fact, but you swore you just saw a whole human form in some type of shadowed state. Shadow people also refers in my world to the dark arts. In your world, what you're saying is magic, is mystical, is demonic, is ghost type relics and effects. These are all the things that I know of shadow people. But when you put it into a psychological form, now you're looking at behavior. Now you're looking at behavior patterns in people that are not looking out for anybody's welfare but their own. And that we would almost think is a narcissist. These people definitely have narcissistic tendencies, but they're way below anybody that could even call themselves admirable. They function strictly to get you riled up, because the more riled up you get, the more hyped up your energy becomes, and they feed off of that. So it's a need for them to see people get all flustered. And if they find weak people or people that are willing to go along for the ride, oh, that sounds fun. It's okay. Let's do that. Like play with a Ouija board and have no idea what you're doing, or drawing a pentagram and creating or reciting from the book of magic, dark magic. There's a lot of ways to conjure shadow people to do your bidding. So when you look at the word shadow, you automatically go to why aren't they in the light kind of thing, and that gives you a really good explanation of what you're seeing. A lot of the shadow people effects are what we allow to happen, because that's what we're used to. That's our story. Our story is built around dealing with shadow people, in and out, good or bad, whatever, right or wrong, fighting all the time, controversy, peace, whatever the reason is for interjecting with the shadow folk. The reality of it is, unless they're really bad, you can tell them to be gone. If they're really bad, then no, they're not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, you need to back up, because they're not going to budge, and you are probably going to be in trouble if that shadow individual is somebody that is a conjurer or can do magic and knew it well and has gone beyond physical into a different dimension. They are also associated, shadow people are also associated with the UFOs phenomena and the mythology. They're, the shadow people lurk at night, and, they don't come out unless they pose a threat to someone. So all these folklore, all these myths, they're established in something. There's got to be a reality to it to some degree, somewhere, way back in its beginning. And so I don't discount shadow people at all. As a matter of fact, that's the way I can usually tell people I know that they're psychic, is because they do experience seeing those shadows. And then I can explain to them, okay, that's so-and-so, and that's being nice. You don't have to worry about that, because you have to tune into what they feel like overall versus who they say they are. They can tell you they're Mother Mary and be some dark demon that's just trying to convince you that they can inhabit you and take your soul, and you're never heard of again. In the realm of mentality. So you're brain dead, basically. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of lore, a lot of explanation on why people say that they deal with or they associate, I understand, the black arts, the shadow people, the mystical, magical wizardry that takes place. And we're not even, that's even not even going into the direction of those that practice satanic rituals and Santeria and want to control, and then, like you described, yes, they're out of body now. They're going to have sex with anybody that's willing, and it's horrible because you feel like you're violated. You feel like you weren't willing really to begin with, but you were a little bit open, so you allowed something in that you shouldn't have because you didn't know how to control it to begin with, and that's where people just don't know how to protect themselves or keep things like that at bay, unless they've learned it and practiced and applied it in their life. You have to be able to be aware and understanding that if there is good energy, then there is bad energy. The fact is, we as a globe think polarity is the way we live our life. It's a yes or a no. There can be no middle ground. And I think, once enough of us find the middle ground that we can understand what the yes and the no mean, we're not freaked out about any of them. We are our own fulcrum at that point, and we're balanced, and we'll be able to really benefit from all there is to know. But in the meantime, we deal with shadow folks. We deal with, um, whatever realm you want to know this individual on. It can be very elusive. It can be very psychologically damning. Um, and not even to mention the physical things that you go through. Say, you go to sleep or you get to bed every night, you start to get comfortable, and you recognize the shadow at the end of the bed. And this isn't the first time I've seen that shadow, and I've tried to stay awake every night after night after night because I'm scared to death to go to sleep, and I'm beginning to get sleep deprived, which makes it real easy for them to go ahead and take me because I can't move a freaking muscle. I am now paralyzed from this shadow thingy. So it really isn't something that you want to entice. It isn't something that you want to play with or let in voluntarily, but it is something that you do need to be aware of because that shadow person can only interfere or connect with you if your ego allows it. If this is where your ego is healthy enough to say, I don't care what you are, I see you over in that corner and you don't impress me a bit, get on with your bad self, then you've got a better ability of using your ego to protect you from these things versus succumb and become a victim to it. And unfortunately, about 90% of everybody becomes a victim to it. It's more identifiable if you've got a shadow person latched on you or haunting you or in your house. It's more easier to say it's that thing doing it than it is me letting in. So it's a little bit of a tricky concept there when it comes to shadow folks because yes, it's a polar opposite of ourselves. It's who we don't ever want anybody to know we can be. But the reality of it is that is who we are, and those shadow people represent something different than what they started out to be. They did not start out to be a shadow person. They were made that way. Regardless of why or regardless of how, when they died, they went into a lower realm. They were made that way. You have to volunteer for that. You have to honor it. You have to let it in voluntarily before that can ever let you happen. That's again, you don't want to let kids playing with things that they don't understand. You don't want to be doing seances. You don't want to be playing with voodoo. You don't want to be doing anything in the black art unless you're controlled enough in your own self to be able to recognize it as a shadow and then expel it from yourself and allow your own ego to step up just a little bit, not take over and rule the game, but to make sure everybody's safe and it's cleaned out. And that's what the ego's for. Unfortunately, everybody is hell bent on erasing the ego or forgetting it exists or finding that there wasn't a reason for it at all. And those are the people, unfortunately, those are the people that are going to be gullible enough to attract shadow because they want to be involved. They want to have some incident, some experience. They want to have some story they can share. And if the best they can do is say they had a story, say they had a shadow person attached to them, then for them that's enough. That's all they need to believe. Then they're in the game. And the reality of it is that was their own ego projecting whatever it was they needed to see or however bad it needed to be for them to get it. So it's different in the mythology part of what you utilize as a shadow person from what I utilize as a shadow person, but they mean the same thing. I mean, they're both derogative to light, therefore they're in that category of a shadow person.
Well, and here's the other thing, and that's interesting too, is that we were talking on a previous show about how people give us fake birth data, and this happens all the time, and they get what they give us, and so we give them a fake reading if that's the data that they're going to give, and that's just the nature of what we do and who we are. But what I have found interesting is that, so I have a coworker who ended up giving me like not a great piece of birth data. It turned out to be not their birth date because they were being sued, and like their Facebook profile information was not entirely accurate for legal reasons, kind of thing. So one of the things, you guys, you should always keep in mind is don't post your birth date out on Facebook, because I hope you realize that for me as an astrologer, that is more intimate than sending me nude photos. It truly is, because I can take a snapshot of your soul, which is literally everything, and that's something that I can do in my work. So just a quick caveat, don't put your birth data out there, because I'm gonna run away with it and play with that, because I'm a researcher and a scientist. That's just what I do. So when I was looking at this data that wasn't real, I was seeing all of this really great stuff. Like I thought to myself, wow. This is why this person appears like is like a shimmering goddess to me, and there's like this, all of the stuff I'm reading about like empathy and love and like a student-teacher relationship kind of stuff, and this is the type of person who has gone lifetime after lifetime, of really working hard for themselves, and that the life that they're in now is something that they have truly created through their soul's journey, kind of thing. And then when I find out the birth date is not real, because that's just I'm just reading objectively what's being given to me, and then I find out it's not real. It's kind of like, oh, so that's a quote unquote shadow person. We just don't think of them that way, like they're not the, like they don't look like the Heartless, like in Kingdom Hearts kind of stuff. This is more like the person who is on the opposite side of the wall that we can't see in some parallel existence that's very similar to ours. It's the best way I could describe it is like the life that happens on the other side of this wall when this simulation that we're experiencing right now is over. So whatever the real life actually looks like, that's what that chart would be. So it's not shadow in that sense. It's really just a reflection of themselves, of some aspect of themselves. And what I find interesting is that I keep looking at, like these fake profiles, especially in like relationship comparisons, that somebody gives me a birth data and it all looks so great, so wonderful. And it's just kind of like, why did this blow up so royally in my face when everything looks so good? Well, first of all, I'll tell you that when it comes, one of the best things that we can do as consumers and as people out there in the world, that when we come into contact with somebody, having their birth data is essential, not only just because we can find out that somebody's not the Craigslist killer, right? That's the first thing. But also the fact that we can it doesn't take but 5 minutes to evaluate if there is an actual physical meeting between the two people. So Veretta, you and I have it together that we meet in person, and guess what? We do. We see each other out in the real world. So that's always a guarantee. Whenever we chat with somebody, in these virtual settings, it's good for us to know going into this, am I going to meet this person? Because if I'm not, they probably aren't who they represent themselves to be, or that's just a total waste of my time, as if I know it's not going to lead anyplace. So in my experiences, what I'm finding with these other charts is that there is no physical meeting, but everything else looks so perfect and amazing, and like some dreamboat fantasy that I just want to come true more than anything else. And then it all blows up in my face. Well, that's very simply because it's a reflection of the parts of myself, all of the red flags that I chose to ignore along the way. They're just kind of like, sorry, nope, you got to still work on these things. That's basically what's going on. So when I read the chart of a quote unquote shadow person in this case, a chart that's not real, that's just you on the other side of the wall living your best life in a version that's not this once the simulation is over.
Right. And the closer we get to understanding everything has a shadow, so everything has the capability of being a shadow person, the quicker we get over ourselves thinking, oh my God, that was a terrible thing to have happen. Really, because it's a 1 in 5, or what is it, 1 in 50 chance. You're not going to not meet somebody when there's 70 billion people on this freaking planet. You're going to have shadow people. So you need to enforce your own light, reinforce your bubble, and just hold your head high with integrity and hope that isn't your shadow hanging around. Because honestly, the stronger you are, the bigger your shadow can be. And that's why a lot of people will use dark arts when it's coming to to the investing in the shadow kind of thing. They want to be bigger. And if you don't allow it, if you don't feed it, if you don't let it, it won't. Yeah, you can acknowledge it. Yep, it happened. Yep, it was there. I understand wholeheartedly. But nope, that's not going to bother me. It's not going to keep me down. I'm here for a reason other than that. So bring it.
So you're saying that before we choose to when we're out in the ethers planning all of this life before us, it sounds to me like you are saying then that we consciously make a choice in the ethers to some unknown entity. Yes, I am going to be queen of the damned for you. This is something that I can that I can uphold this agreement.
Yeah, that would be a contract. And those type of contract situations are made for multiple people, multiple times throughout our life. That way we are ensured that we will have some learning event that is, ingratiated into our living situation to bring us that learning ability, bring us that something that we need to live by, to grow by, to have more knowledge by. If we lived our whole life every day, 9 to 5, going to the store, coming back home, or going to work and coming back home, fixing dinner, getting in bed, getting back up, doing it all over again, we have very little room for different interactions. So when we make a contract with someone in spirit, we're probably going to bet that individual is going to show up because they need something from us as well. So when you contract with, and it doesn't have to be an intimate relationship, but unfortunately, 9 times out of 10, the person that's the vulnerable of the two that fall into the contract to begin with is sure that that's their soulmate and they never want to leave again. In reality, there's a whole lot of us soulmates, and no, you don't want to live with every one of them. But this person is not your twin flame or your soulmate or your anything. You just had a contract with them. And once that contract's done, the relationship probably should be too, unless it was healthy for the whole time. And that's okay. That can be arranged. You can have healthy relationships with people. It is a matter of preconceiving a little bit of your route when you get down here, so you can guarantee, hedge your bets, if you will, that you're going to get nudged in the right direction. Say you kind of stall out or slow down or just get lazy.
It's interesting you say that because the person who introduced me to you, I no longer keep in contact with. Like, it wasn't long after I met you as a person and they introduced me to you that, like, that relationship just fell by the wayside. And remember that sometimes that, like, the relationships that we have with people are for the sake of an introduction or for the sake of new information. Like, somebody that I used to run with a long time ago said, this is the sound setup that you need to buy for your computer. And then I never saw them again after this. So as soon as I was imparted that information, and then they just kind of let me loose into the landscape of audio engineering, and everything was just a good luck afterwards. I was able to let go of that because I just thought there is no more reason for me to really know this person. There's nothing more to be seen or done because, like it was a line that was crossed to begin with. So the relationship never should have been anyway. And now, like the fact that you've taught me this, which is something I really needed to know. Number one, thank you. But also that I'm just ready to move on. I'm past this. I'm over it. I've outgrown it. This is no longer who I am as a person. So, sometimes our relationships are just truly that simple. And, like that we try to memorialize them and think, well, I knew him for so long and, it was so wonderful because we used to go do XYZ together like always. No, quit romanticizing it. Let's take it more literal, for what actually happened. Because if that was to introduce you to somebody or to give you some new piece of information and that is all, then you can cut it off right there.
Yep. You can, and really a lot of times you should, because if it wasn't something that meant to be a long-lasting factor, then it can possibly end not well, and you don't need to do that to yourself. But people, it's a reality that goes along with the metaphysical thinking. People don't understand that that's the case. Sometimes they do understand it, and they don't want to get on that program because they don't want to feel like everything that happens is already pre-planned. And it isn't. I mean, there's faith. You have. Okay, so you have destiny, which is where you're headed, and the reality of it is you can make free will allows you to make so many choices in direction as you're headed towards your destiny. And you have the ability to say no at any time to anything that isn't, like happening in a way that you want it to. But you got to know also, if you say no all the time, then you're not going to get opportunity for those lessons. You're not going to get the opportunity to grow. You're not going to get the opportunity to learn anything different than what you know already. And especially, a lot of people that are hard-wrenched in core religion, they don't want to know that there's anything else out there other than what they want to believe in, because that keeps it very tiny. It keeps it very organized. It keeps it very quaint in their mind. There's not a lot of rules you need to know. It's this over this and that over that and nothing better. But when you're looking at it from the direction of a metaphysical and omni-aware reality, lets you know that everything is right for that individual being, even though it may not be right for you, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's right over everything. And if you can stay open-minded enough while you're looking around at your situation to know that there is a learning potential in this, you just have to freaking find it. Don't go boo-hoo, and if you have to go boo-hoo because it was really traumatic, okay, fine. Do it for about a minute, and then get up and move on. Because honestly, the boo-hoo isn't going to rewind that time frame that made it not happen. And it was there for a reason, and the cause, even though it hurt you, it may be something else someone else had to have at that time. So when we're looking at the consequences of what we do, then it overlaps with what we're thinking, and that's what makes the ugly matter around us change. That's what makes us viable for something that would like to use a vulnerable nature, a vulnerable person, vulnerable soul in that time. So I can't remember who introduced you to me. I thought for sure I met you in a meditation class.
We did, but it was per the
glad.
suggestion of somebody else.
Was it? Okay. Did I know them?
I think so.
Or were they just a student?
I think you knew them. I don't think you really kept in touch on your own much after that. But to your point, you make I've come into contact with somebody recently who is learning how to open their mind up that there is so much more to this universe than what our structured religions try to give us credit for. And like the big hesitation in all of that, especially for me as somebody who grew up quite religious as a young person, and then when I went off and started doing my own thing, it wasn't well, I guess, received or accepted by other peers or family members, because remember, this is like 2004, and Veretta, you probably dealt with this even before then, that we as a society believe that anything that does not worship the one true God, is blasphemous, is witchcraft, is magic, is all of that stuff. And, and that is actually a thing for those of you who aren't aware, that back in like the origins of the church and how all of that came into foundation was that, that the gypsies would use cards and other astrology, things like that at the time, to try to, divine new information that that other people couldn't, and they were good at it, but it was condemned because it didn't worship the one true God. And we know today that that's sort of a loaded phrase, just because we don't really think in those terms anymore. Like, if I'm being really honest, I'm super diehard agnostic. Whatever created this universe is so huge, I cannot possibly understand it until I check out.
And that's the truth.
And that's just the way it is. And when you tell somebody who's devoutly religious that you're agnostic for that reason, then they kind of think that maybe a couple wires are loose, and that's only the half of it. But
and they back away.
Right. So, Veretta, what are your thoughts? Because I know you're a metaphysics expert. In order to, tap into all of this higher knowing, there are two sides of the same coin. And, I think a lot of our world religion teaches us that, like, just because it's there doesn't necessarily mean you have to bite, because what you may get or what you
Exactly.
may see is either dangerous, you don't understand it, or you're just very simply not ready to know this yet.
Hmm. I agree, and that's the reality of it right there. A lot of religions, well, it's not even down to religion anymore. It would be one core religion and one core individual that holds a lot of the secrets that keep us in line and in place. But you're right. You know that is how we create our own. And well, so what happens is we end up finding out the truth and rebelling and creating our own independence because there were more societies that lived in a pagan manner and encouraged ritual because they really felt like if they didn't do this one thing that their whole world would end. And so now we fast forward to a place where, we might turn out to be that savage, but the reality of it is the world's not going to end. It's just going to open up its mind to different pattern and behavior, and hopefully it will be a lot more peaceful. Um, I want to say also, when we talk about metaphysics, when we talk about people that can divine, and that division comes in many ways. Nostradamus used a bowl of water with ink, and Edgar Casey would lay down on a bed in trance, and he actually tranced and wrote a book on, or it was in one of his books, I can't remember, that at some point religion would be threatened when people will openly not obey yet and feel like that one true source, whatever it may be, may not be what we've been provided the truth by. And people know the truth. It's hidden from us. There isn't one true source. There is one true creator, but there are many sources of divinity and life bearing energies that create. And no, I don't think people at this point are ready to know about the UFO or the alien situation because they are so staunch head in that religion. They can't make any sense out of anything other than their religion because that's their faith, their foundation. They function on the faith that they believe that the one true source is the creator, and that's all there is. And the reality of it is, it isn't. There are so many more um, life forms. There are so many more galaxies and universes and planets with life on it that may not look like ours, but the reality of it is unfortunately, when the truth comes out, a lot of people um, aren't going to be able to handle it. And the one source that holds a lot of information and is key to not unlocking that information to the public ceases to exist at some point in time. And I don't know what catastrophe would make that happen. Yeah, maybe they blow up the Vatican. I don't know. But the fact is there are examples of other life, and it's being kept hidden because those people that need to believe that's their source can't vary from that. And so it'll come out. It'll come out at some point. And all these things that we think, all of our suspicions, all the conspiracy theories are going to have to reform around whatever the truth is at that moment. But there's going to be a lot more people saying, I told you so. And this is enormous. So we need to rethink our way of life and how we see things and promote a global awareness, into a universal awareness, and stop thinking that we are all omnipotent because that just doesn't exist in a material form. Our mortal bodies keep us bound to this mortal life. When that life is over, the body's over, then you can go anywhere you want to, and that's pretty profound. But until somebody can get there and get back and report on what it's like and be credible enough to bring proof, we'll have to just take their word for it, and mine too, because I can see snippets of what it will be like. I've got information, and every time I give a reading, if it's mediumship geared, I can form more of an idea of what it's going to be like when we motivate into spirit. But I can tell you now, it's not what a majority of the Christian religion would believe.
So what does it mean? Like, so we've often heard before talking about black magic that you get a reading from somebody. Let's say like somebody who's holding a booth at like a street fair, and this is somebody you've never really heard of before, and you decide to do it just for grins to see what happens, and you sit down at the table and like they're probably doing cards or something along those lines, but the information that they get is almost kind of creepy. It's kind of scary. It's like it spooks you out. Like, how the heck does this total stranger know all of these really intimate bits about my life? Like, and we're not talking about like reading a language off of a page like what I do, because this is just very astrology is literal. So all I have to do is just read the words here and I tell the story. But there are certainly classes of people that give readings that it's just kind of like, how did you know that? And it's not the fact that somebody is just simply very good. It's the fact that they are simply very good each and every single time, to where it's kind of like, are you stalking me? It just feels creepy or weird. And what is that? What is the
Okay.
function of that type of black magic?
Well, it isn't black magic, sweetheart. It's actually utilized by black magic. It's the psychic realm. It's that it's like listening to a radio. There's stations, and that you have to tune the channel to tune into that specific station. So as a psychic, they are visiting a realm that holds all the information, including the Akashic records, right? So now you're tapping into everything that anybody can possibly want to know and or may happen if that's the way they let it roll. And they can see into that realm because they practice, they know, they're learned, they value the information, so they're appreciative. You can't be an honestly good psychic until you understand what you're doing and you learn to know that there's a point to it. It's of service. It's not just about you being a psychic. So when you're reading someone, you're receiving information from that layer, and it depends upon how you're tuning in to that layer to determine how it's being given to you. Maybe it's only given to you in snippets. Maybe somebody comes through and likes playing charades and does this whole pantomime thing about making you guess about what they're trying to say. That happens too. But you're receiving information from that realm that holds the info, and you can trust that it's correct. And you don't even have to assume that you're going to have to backtrack and edit and see if it's a fact check and see if it's all true. If you're connected to source, if you've got a good rapport with your guides, and you've created a protocol and a routine to exercise using your psychic ability, then you know that what you're being given is pure. It's driven by spirit, and it can be seen. It can be seen by multiple people. Anybody that tunes in on your behalf or anybody else's behalf can tune into that, but they may not receive it the same way because they have to tune specifically to a vibration to let that happen. So maybe your core energy runs, and we're just going to throw 5,000 megahertz out there, and they're tuning in at 4999, or they're going at 5001, and so they may get the same information but in a different modality. So you've got a psychic laying cards. Maybe she can't lay cards, or maybe she can't give you that info without those cards to open the door to that realm. And now she's receiving information. She's receiving it psychically. She probably doesn't even need those cards. And I've taught this time and time again. I've had 40-year-old people come in and tell me, 20 years ago I started reading cards. I can't read without them, and I've proven them wrong, because it's a matter of shifting your reality and knowing that you have control of that tuning tube, not what's in front of you. But tools are okay. I'm not discounting them. I'm just saying that you can use the tarot, you can use I Ching, you can use runes, you can scry, you can everything. And the only when you sit down and draw a spirit guide or draw somebody in spirit that I knew, that you had no idea who I was. You want to talk about stalking me. You had no idea who I was, let alone before I sat down. But to draw people that I knew that have passed on, now that's legit. There's no way that someone can disprove that. But the other things, sometimes it's easier for people to see you use cards, because if they were to think that you're in their head or you're in their space and they don't know how you got there, let alone how to keep you out. Now, oh my God, you know all my dark secrets. Run, run, run. So it's easier to use cards because sometimes people need that visual. So when they get up and walk away, they think that the connection is terminated, and that person will never think about you again. In reality, that person might think a whole lot about you. They can't act on it because you walked away. There's no reason for them to. But the reality of it is that either they didn't shut the door properly or they didn't know to. And that's always the case in somebody that continues to get information after the fact. If they're working a street fair, if they're working a little fair, whatever, and they're in a place where they're coming and going, like an event, a Christmas party, whatever, Halloween parties are great. Then you need to be able to cut it off, shut that radio station down, completely detach, and take a breath, and then go ahead and pick up someone so you can do it new all over again. You don't want to keep that door open because now you're reading the person that just sat down with you from that other energy, and that's corrupt. So there's a lot of things about it that people don't know to do because it's become hyper sensationalized about how it is that everybody's psychic, which they are. What? No, I'm not. Yeah, you are. Don't argue. I'm telling you. I can prove it to you that everybody's psychic. And most people are also a medium, but that scares the crap out of a lot of folks. So unless they're ready to really embrace that modality, I don't throw that at them unless I know that I'm getting the right signs and signals it's something to do, because that can shut people down too when they think I don't want people to come through me. That's not okay. I didn't sign up for that. And the reality of it is most of us can't. We just don't know how to, and we only get bits and pieces. And there are different types of mediums. So then you also have to understand there's a subcategory, or it's not even a sub, it's an equal lateral to, but it's still, you've got trans medium, you've got psychic medium, you've got physical medium. There's just all kinds of sensory perceptions that we as people don't know how to even classify or use because we're not being brought up in that type of society. And the reality of that, Ernesto, is before us as a modernized civilization, and I'm talking American Indians, that far back and not really that far back at all, they used their intuition to guide them by. Every culture, prior to the civilization this civilization of man, we used our instincts, our natural instincts to guide us by, because that's what we had. So it was ingrained in our daily life. It wasn't even something we needed to worry about talking about. That's the way it was. And it's surprising to me that a lot of people don't know that, but it's not taught in our schools, as well as a lot of the metaphysical properties of science are not taught in schools, because again, that one religious factor holds the key to a whole lot of questions, and he's not giving up the answer. And he really can't, because the whole world would go a little bit sideways and a whole lot of south if they understood exactly how alone we're not on this planet.
Well, you make a great point, and just kind of getting into all of this. So the dark arts, we would associate with the planet Hades, obviously, because that deals with darkness and all types of terrible things. But it's also a planet of obscurities. It's a planet of metaphysics. Like you cannot have metaphysics or intuition or magic or the healing arts or any of that kind of stuff unless there is darkness. So this is where we draw it all from. How you choose to use that is a totally different story. I always give the example with this planet. So Hades, you could be a criminal or you could be a doctor. Same knife used two different ways. It's your choice.
Right.
So, it really all kind of comes down to that. And, At an even more basic level, we're talking about things that are like self-care, your needs, your necessities, like having a roof over your head or feeding yourself, things that are really basic boundaries. These all lead into this planet here. So when we're being ripped apart, every which way and back, and nothing seems to be going our way, sure, there might be a curse. I won't, say no, because these things do happen. But, definitely get in touch with us about that first, because we can give you more info on it. But the point is, usually when you're dealing with something that's feeling not great in life, it's very simply a reflection most of the time of something that you're not doing for yourself. Like there is some aspect of yourself that's being neglected. And by causing that neglect, we open the door to all kinds of other issues, pain, despair. I mean, this is just the very beginning of it. And all of that can be avoided by taking the focus back on ourselves and focusing on what really matters. Like Beretta and I met with you a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how we got onto this subject, but I can always have a pretty good sense of the caliber of BS that's in your life just by your tone of voice. And like this is a constant that I am always aware of, that I naturally attract people who are involved with a lot of BS. This is just kind of a thing. So when people are less overwhelmed by those issues, that's always a positive thing, and I always get really excited about that. So just to kind of close things down, we are going to catch up with Nancy in just a minute here over at area code 541. So please do stay tuned. But to close out the show for our podcast here on the Alchemy Annex, before we take our call, the dark arts, yeah, it can lead to all kinds of things. It is the shadow side of things. It's the neglect of ourselves. That's the main takeaway from all of this. But remember that it's all about how we choose to use the energy. We could be eaten up alive by it. We can be victimized by it by not doing anything at all and just, feeling nothing but pain and despair. Or we can take that pain and despair and kick it into action and say, nope, you're not getting one on me today, to that nasty little black storm cloud that follows us everywhere. So, it's your choice how you want to make that all work out.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. It's our choice as to how that works.
It really, truly is. And so the great news is that we're going to be focusing on this topic for the next week and a half here. And then on the 16th, which will be our next episode of the Alchemy Annex, I'm bringing in my friend Amanda, and we're going to be talking about, guess what, the healing arts. So we're going to take it totally different direction and talk about some other things in that realm in the next program. So we do want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on this episode of the Alchemy Annex. We're going to go ahead and close out the podcast and move on to Nancy and take her call from area code 541. So thank you, everybody, and we will catch up with you until next time. And let's catch up with Nancy at area code 541. Hi, Nancy. I have your chart up right now. Can you hear me right now?
Hi. Oh, I certainly can, and thank you. Yeah, I could just listen to you both talk for hours and hours. I love your subjects.
Oh, appreciate the kind words. Now, Nancy, I have your chart up. Do you have a question for us, or would you just like a general about health, love, or career?
Well, you know what? I'm doing a huge transformation. I am finally moving next week to Oklahoma, and everything's planned and ready to go. And I also feel like other things in myself are changing. I'm opening up more to synchronicities, and things are just really, really opening up now. So I was just curious what you saw.
Okay, all right, Beretta, what you got for Nancy here about synchronicities?
All right. Well, you most definitely are going through a transition. Nancy, I'm seeing all kinds of good things waiting for you. Now, the thing about that I see also are there some things that could slide you sideways. So if you get little hiccups in the process, don't freeze. Don't stop. Don't feel like you failed. It's just a hiccup. I want to say these types of hiccups feel ultimately to me like it's a timing thing. So it means you have to go slower, or you have to wait a minute, or maybe you need to do something a little bit different than you planned originally. And so it gives you a second to review. It gives you a minute to really look at what you had planned or what you thought it was going to be, and was it more or less or different, overwhelming, underwhelming? Just be real with yourself as far as emotionally, and get in touch with your feelings to help you understand what didn't look right, but you stepped in that direction anyway, and give you a chance to back up. And I don't feel like it's going to be anything that's going to, like be more than a day at that, because you're astute enough to really pay attention to those kind of things, especially once you're told to. You're really very aware that things can happen and that they can change in a moment's notice. So I don't think it's changed. I think that there may be things that were so synchronistic in this event for you that it almost got you there ahead of time. And now they need to make up for that. Don't discount the synchronicities. Don't take them up when they're offered. If it's something you need and it comes out of the blue, even if you don't know how it's going to be managed, say okay. Just see what you can do to make it work. I feel like you're going to have a lot. People are going to offer you a lot of things along the way to make this change rather quick and really fairly easy. It's almost like somebody offers to really carry a lot of the load, or at least reassure to you in a way that a lot of the load that you're mentally carrying is going to be taken care of and provided for, so that helps you relax. So I would say the synchronicities, what you're feeling, every step that you're taking, everything's in the right direction and in the right way. I don't feel like you're off track whatsoever. So when you get the hiccups, just see them as that, little hiccups, and they'll go away.
Well, one of the hiccups you were saying is all I have left in the apartment that I'm in now, because everything was already, the van took it away, was this blow-up bed, and it broke just a few minutes ago. It blew up. So I don't have anything to sleep on, really.
Yeah, you gotta love it, don't you? Gotta love it. All right, well, let's see what
I love it.
Okay, all right. So I'm taking a look here for you, Nancy. First of all, about the move. So you're definitely moving. That's the great news. I just wanted to verify that that was actually going to be a thing for you, because sometimes people have this concept that I'm going to move no matter what. It's just going to happen, right? And then I don't see it in the chart. And then guess what? They move, but they move back because there was some problem or some issue or something like that. And so I had to check for you, is Nancy moving? Because you'd like to know if you're going to move back. Well, that could have saved a lot of heartache. So the first thing that I can tell here is that, yeah, you are going to move, but there's going to be a problem, like there's an issue. And I think the issue, very simply, is the fact that kind of things are moving too fast. That's the best way I could put it. Very similar to like what Beretta was talking about just now, that everything that what you would define as synchronistic in this case, it's actually just everything is going forward like it's supposed to, without a conflict or without an issue or a problem. And this is almost kind of scary because you're so used to having problems and issues, and now you're not. So that's the main issue here, is the fact that this all seems to be moving together so fast, but it's because that's just the nature of the beast. You're in the right place. You're doing all the right things. It's just all clicking together the way that it's supposed to. What I will say about the move, once you get over there, is you're definitely coming into contacts with new people. I want to say that, like, you're going to be doing something work related. Like, it may not be a traditional job per se. It might be a volunteer position. It might just be something you do with your time. But I see other people involved, like a community, and it feels very much like work. It may not necessarily be that, but it's going to definitely consume a huge part of who you are, and it leans more towards self-employment. So that's kind of more of what you're looking at as far as the job is concerned. But you will have some new opportunities pop up there, and pay attention to the guys in your environment, because I feel like male energy is going to be very beneficial in that whole process, that there's a man in all of this who's going to put it together, or they're going to need something from you, and you're going to say, oh, I can make that happen. It's like, and one small thing leads to another, and then that leads to bigger and better things. But I really feel like that there is some new work that's headed to you as far as this move is concerned as well.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about with the work. Yeah, I'm involved with this quantum healing kind of community that are invested in some healing, futuristic healing devices. It's totally different than anything you ever saw out there. But yeah, so yeah, there might be something to do with that.
Yeah, I definitely see that coming to you. It might be like a multi-level thing, or you do presentations, or that you have an online shop where you get to together with people on Zoom, something like that. But you'll be making money from it, but it's just going to be, I want to say, more of a self-employment 1099 kind of thing. And
Yeah,
there will
I
be a
wasn't even
community
looking for
aspect of it
money
too.
for it. Yeah, it's a community. Yeah, I don't think of making money off of it, but I'm just thinking of, it's just a humanitarian type of effort.
Well, it may not lead to money right now, but it will in the future. So always be open to that, and just follow, like we were
Okay.
talking about, follow your intuition. Whatever your instincts are telling you to do, go with that. And because your instincts are
Okay.
truly never wrong, since they're primitive, they're the first thing that come to us. But you have a lot of great things coming to you, Nancy, with this move. I really like the way this chart looks for that.
Oh, great. Well, looking forward to it. Even with all the glitches in the beginning, it's just getting there. That's the hard part. But
Well, the glitches in getting there, I want to say, are going to be about just getting rid of all the junk and the trash, that you probably
that's
took.
right.
Like
Hmm.
you probably packed the kitchen sink, and that's not really necessary. So it's just kind of, like
Hmm.
coming to those really hard decisions like, oh, I don't need this Christmas stuff. And believe me, Christmas stuff is always the hardest to get rid of because it's so sentimental. But, like it's going to be those kinds of keepsake items, like what is it that I absolutely have to have in the event of an emergency? I think you're really going to be cutting down in a lot of ways. So that's going to be the big challenge is,
Yeah.
making those choices.
Yeah, I already packed. And it's in the van on its way. So I'm not even worried about that. It's cleaning up the rest of the place, like the backyard and everything, to make it right for that. That's the only thing that I
Yeah.
got to do, and just transportation to get there,
Well,
which I already made.
I'm so excited for you. You're off to a new journey. New chapter of life begins.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you.
Retta, do you have anything else for Nancy here about Oklahoma?
Not really. I think, as far as the state itself is concerned, she's going to be okay there. I think it's a matter of finding a community as fast as she can as to whether or not she'll like it. But I think that she's resourceful enough to know where to look. So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
so I think it's good all the way around too.
And Nancy, hey, I just want to
Okay.
let you know, if you scan that QR code at the bottom left corner of our YouTube stream, or if you click on the link tree at the bottom of our Blog Talk Radio description, you can get in touch with our Patreon program right there on the top. Plan starting as low as $8 a month, and you can get in touch with us offline for all of those individual questions that you might have, so we can take a look at that for you.
Okay, I appreciate it. I will do that.
All right, for sure. Well, it was great to have you on the show. Be sure to give us a call back and let us know how it turns out.
Okay. Okay. You both take care.
For sure. You too. Take care and many blessings.
Many blessings.
Until next time.
Many blessings. Okay.
Okay, and that'll do it for today's show. We do want to thank everybody for coming out. We will be back with you guys again on, let's see here, that'll be the 13th, which will be on Thursday. That's next Thursday. That'll be for a 1 hour call-in program, and we will be doing our regular show like we used to back then. We're just changing it to Thursdays. So we look forward to catching up with you guys then. Do want to thank you guys for coming out. It has been real as always. For all other things Iranian astrology, be sure to check out eastrologer.tv. And just want to let you know that my website is going away for the time being. I'm doing some rebranding stuff that's kind of some major heavy lifting. And part of that process means that I don't have a website for right now. So that is down. It will go to our link tree, and where you can still find all of the essential stuff that you need for us. And hopefully that tree will come, or excuse me, that website will come back online when my book is published in the next few months here. So that's really exciting and looking forward to that. And remember, you can always find Beretta at berettavision.com.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. We will catch up
Hit
with
us
you
up
guys
and-
next time. Many blessings, and thanks to all our guests.
Absolutely.
Until, let's see here, that's going to be on the 13th, which will be next Thursday from 6 to 7 Arizona time. We will see you guys then. Until next time, good luck and Godspeed.
Bye-bye.